I've been conflicted on making this video simply because of how inconsistent Samson is as a game, and I didn't want to be super negative about it. While I can find the fun within issues and bugs, it doesn't make it alright for the game to be released that way. For those wanting the too long didn't care to listen answer before clicking off, the game is inconsistent and isn't finished. It should have really been pushed back a month or two for them to iron out these issues. But for those wishing to stick around and hear about the good, the bad and the ugly, let's talk about Samson. Samson is a gritty action mobster kind of game, where you owe money and your sister is being kept captive till you pay it back. The world itself feels run down and crooked in so many ways, and this down to earth in the slums kind of world is what drew me in the first place. You play as Samson, and while I can't say I love Samson as a character, he makes a lot of sense. He's a rugged, angry man who's fed up with the world after being the fall guy when a job went south. And after his time in jail, he comes back and is having to pick up the pieces and get his debt paid to rescue his sister. I'll be honest, he's bland and one note, but this can also be seen as he doesn't see the point in wasting his time, where he can just get to work and see results. Samson has those he cares about and is well known around Tiddleston for what he can do when push comes to shove. Combat, for example, isn't some swift and agile dance, but a brutal trading of blows and popping painkillers to numb the pain. Each punch and kick comes out like a deliberate exhaustion trying to hit as hard as possible to end the fight. Weapons also get thrown into the mix, and they can be used to get some extra damage out, but some will also break after one hit, like bottles for example. But where I had the most fun was throwing weapons during these fights. Now throwing weapons at people I feel is an amazing addition to the game, because you would, it's a street fight, no rules, do what you need to win. So launching a brick or a bottle at somebody's face is the ideal starter strategy as your opener. But what makes it amazing is that you can launch them for a fair distance with a great deal of accuracy, and just drop someone without anyone knowing. This backstreet fighting style fits perfectly within the world and makes it feel grounded in that setting. Speaking of the setting, the world feels like that old school mob handling business. Hey Paulie, make sure Marco enjoys his time at the harbour. Horrible impression. The world feels compact but detailed, with each new street you venture down carrying a familiar yet unique environment. Mob bars, gangs and drugs fill out the world with how far their influence stretches, with a new drug being on the street called White Whisper, which has flooded the streets and turned those who gave it a try into rattling junkies who need their next fix. You'll find stashes of this and people who are peddling it around the world that you need to deal with. Now I mentioned debt before, and that debt isn't going anywhere unless you work at it, and that's where the jobs come in. There's a bunch of different kinds of jobs, but they come in two separate styles. There are ones you handle on foot and those that you handle within your car. So with the ones that you're on foot, you'll drive to a spot, lay hands on some people and maybe pick up some boxes filled with drugs and money, and then escape. Sometimes it's about sending a message, others it's protection, and there's also just knocking some people out. With the driving jobs you might need to set times on laps or sprints, and personally I think these are kind of boring, but the other side of things is that you get to do getaway driver jobs, taking people out and escaping the police, which is so much fun. I realise I've not even spoken on the driving itself. The driving is good. It feels deliberate and makes you think about how you take turns and what alleys you can use to avoid the police or catch up with a target that you need to take down. It's heavy, but in my opinion I think that's exactly how Samson's car should feel. I did drive some other vehicles, but they didn't feel great or better, so sticking with Samson's car was what I used mostly. Now, all these things I've mentioned have been fun and I've enjoyed myself, but this is where the negatives come in. The weight of Samson's car to steer is inconsistent and incredibly noticeable all the time. One moment you'll be perfectly handling a turn and another time you'll spin out. I would happily take responsibility for being a bad driver, but it happened so randomly that it never felt like I was doing something wrong, but the game had built-in stick drift. Sticking with the car, the jobs where you need to take enemies off the road is where this matters most, but sometimes you take huge knocks of damage to your car when T-boning someone else. Don't get me wrong, you should be taking damage, but sometimes you end up worse than they are, and the damage needs to be looked at and adjusted because it just feels completely off at times. With the fights, everything they stand for in terms of how you engage them and how they feel to make contact is great. The issue is, sometimes it just doesn't work. Getting surrounded by 5 guys, no, not like that. Feels like the code of the game got all jumbled up. It makes sense when you're getting jumped, but this can happen in a one-on-one fight too. Some fights you get these perfectly connected blows and it's just lights out, but then the next guy you're both hitting emotes and it just feels so janky. I even played it more defensively and it continues to fall into this inconsistent pattern. And the issue is with these 2 points I brought up is that fighting and driving are the 2 main core elements of the game, and they are problematic to deal with at times. No new game is free from the clutches of bugs and technical issues, so let's just run through some of them. Enemies will sometimes just phase through fences and walls or get stuck in the environment. You can also get stuck in the environment. During fights you can throw enemies into the environment like barrels and walls, bricks on top of ladders, and the result of this is meant to fall down on them and take them out. Sometimes when they make contact with these environment hazards, nothing happens. Sometimes missions and jobs just don't end when they're meant to. You can finish the job and all you have to do is leave the area, and no matter where you go, it doesn't work, and never finishes, meaning the only way out is to abort the mission or come off the game. NPCs will trip over your car, drop down from the sky, or stumble over you during calls made in the street. A lot of the time you'll notice them crossing the road and they'll outright double back into your car as you're driving. It's a real pain, but I haven't actually got into any trouble because of it. And while I haven't experienced any technical issues or crashes, plenty of people have reported it being an issue, and hopefully that can get hashed out. Now within both the good and the bad are sprinkles of potential, and unfortunately that's what Samson boils down to. In my eyes, it has the potential to be a great game, but in so many different places it fumbles the bag. The combat is meaty and hard hitting, a scrappy brawl for survival or sending a message is what it aimed for, and a good amount of times it comes up short. So much so that you can't ignore it. Driving Samson's car feels like you're behind this indestructible force of machine 1 second and this brittle glass another. These 2 core elements are what the game's built around. Free roaming and doing jobs and progressing through the story funnels into these 2 core mechanics that need to be worked on and make them worthwhile to stick with. The game isn't bad, it just lacks a constant state of being. When playing, I found the best moments happened when it was a one-on-one fight, where I would focus on taking turns to get attacks in. I enjoyed a bunch of fights where it was 3-on-1 with weapons and surroundings to throw people into, and those numbers and AI aggression made those moments engaging, but could unfortunately fall apart as a punch stops connecting and collision fails to work. It feels like a coin toss of what outcome would happen, and while it didn't always go bad, it happens enough times that you feel prepared for it. I don't want to be all doom and gloom about it, but I feel disappointed with how Samson came out, and I really hope this hadn't been the case, but sometimes that's how life goes. I had high hopes for it and I got my money's worth, but it's a bittersweet pill when I enjoyed the game, but playing it was the worst part of it. That's all I have to say about Samson. If you're looking to pick it up, then maybe wait a bit to see what the devs do to remedy some of these issues. I appreciate you though for watching, and if you want to see more then subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on Samson if you picked it up, and if you were thinking about picking it up. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely day and or evening, and I'll catch you next time.